Transit Blues by the Devil Wears Prada. This band whose EP from last year, entitled Space, we talked about on this very channel. The band whose album 818 is highly praised by a lot of folks that enjoy the metalcore genre or the hardcore genre, whatever that you wish to really call these guys. 818 is seen as a landmark album for them. So Transit Blues has really some expectations to fulfill. This is a band that is able to sometimes take the abstract and use it to their advantage. A lot of metalcore can seem a bit derivative, it can seem a little bit predictable, but with the Devil Wears Prada that is not always the case. They take a little bit more of an artistic edge. They try to add a couple of things in here and there in order to help set mood, either that or further drive points home. The first thing you're going to notice on Transit Blues here, just by looking at something as mundane and probably trivial as song length, is that the home half of this disc, the second half, is much longer than the first. So really the first thing that comes to mind is that you're going to have a very direct, very quick assault with your first couple of tracks, and then it's going to expand its horizons with the home half, correct? Is that what we're getting from this? Because it's not completely right. The first half of this disc does jostle its song length between 2.5 to 3.5 minutes, but this is something that goes between having a more aggressive pace and one that's a little bit more cerebral in its variety. This is one that also, Transit Blues, that takes into account a lot of atmospheric little ideas, but it's not something that feels like it's completely realized at all times. In fact, the very first couple of songs, Praise Poison and Daughter, feel like they are very quickly ended, almost as though these are ideas that did not have logical conclusions sort of already laid out before them. Instead, they just aimed for abruptness in order to sort of keep a listener off guard and really get you right into the next musical idea. Worldwide has a presentable enough idea, but at times can come off as a little bit hokey, naming a bunch of cities before finally settling on the idea of Tokyo for the chorus. But then you get into Lock and Load and Flyover States, and things start to expand just a little bit more. This is an album, though, that once you do reach that home half, once you do reach that lengthier side of this disc, really opens up in ways that you almost wish the first half would have also boasted. It was almost like this was a group that in the Devil Wears Prada that was attempting to showcase both of their sides on one record, and on both, on two different sides of the album, as opposed to 100% just throwing all of their ideas together within songs. It's admirable, but at the same time, it really leaves a preferential side really very well exposed in this variety, and that's the second half. These are songs that amp up a couple of notches, go with 4 to 5 minute length run times, with the Condition being a softer track that sort of offsets some of the imbalance that was created with the first 6 tracks that precede it. And that imbalance is what grants it a certain appeal. It's not something that seems to really, it stands out as opposed to being one of the remainder of the crowd. But then going into to the key of Evergreen, the 5-minute track, the only track with such runtime on this disc, you get probably the band at their most, focused and very kind of very beautiful. This is one that has a heck of an instrumental backing. Its atmosphere is built layer by layer, minute by minute, and it's one that just feels like a complete song. The Devil Wears Prada has every capability to write music like this, and if they did this on a constant, they might be on the cusp of a reinvention of sorts. Not to say this band really requires it, but it's just, as a creative individual, you're kind of always looking for that thing, that next thing that is going to push your identity to a different level. Painters had, blue periods, for example, whereas artists may begin as one thing and end their career as something completely different, and that's what you hope for. You hope to see stylistic evolution, you hope to see development of not only the individuals behind the music, but the music itself, the way in which it moves from the beginning to the end. And that's something that to the key of Evergreen really shows. It's something the band has showcased in the past, so this is not new per se, but it's well executed. Getting into submersion, you literally get the idea of being underwater with the way in which the production is handled during the first portion of this track, and the lyrics do back up that claim a little bit along the way. Home for Grave Part 2 and Transit Blues, the title track, finish this one off and do deliver a bit of a heavier edge. But again, this home half feels a little bit more complete. It feels a little bit more put together. But it does bring up an interesting idea. Perhaps Transit Blues by itself and the disjointed nature of some of these initial tracks is based off of the idea that we quickly travel from one portion to another, and we get these sort of, very quick feelings based off of that. You're in a location for only a short time as opposed to those that you're used to, those that you call home. So you almost have these, Twitter post length opinions that you can have of a place, or Twitter length post experiences that you have, and just as soon as they begin, they end. Maybe I'm looking into it a little bit too deeply. That's probably the case. That's usually what I do. But either way, it's not something that works as well in as a musical context unless you're a group like Agoraphobic Nosebleed and it's your entire gimmick. This is a very different album. It's one that I feel is strengthened by its home half, but its away half leaves a little bit to be desired. It feels a bit disjointed and a little bit just unfinished. But it's still interesting enough to keep you going. The 38-minute runtime keeps it within that range that you want to complete the experience. There's no real massive duds on this album. There's just not a lot that really stands out aside from tracks such as To the Key of Evergreen. It's an album I would give a 79 out of 100 to. This is still one that it should be explored from DWP fans. What's your favorite track off of this album? What do you think about Transit Blues by the Devil Wears Prada? Inquiring minds such as mine want to know. Let me know in the comments below. My name is coverkillernation, and keep it tuned to this station because there's a revolution going on this radio. I hate these jokes. They're horrible. I'm glad I don't write them. If you're wondering who writes them, my brain. As I speak. Which is worse! I'll talk to you later.